She was ranked outside the world's top 40 just a few months ago. Today, tournament directors are rewriting their schedules because of her. This is the story of how one 21-year-old from the Philippines walked into the biggest hardcourt swing of the season and broke the entire system built to contain her. It happened in Toronto at the National Bank Open, one of the most prestigious stops on the entire WTA calendar. The tournament has a court built specifically for rising stars and crowd pleasers, the Grandstand, a stadium that seats 2,800 fans. It is considered more than enough space for almost any player in the draw. Almost any player. When Alexandra Eala's name was placed into that draw, something broke. Tickets did not sell steadily. They did not sell well. They vanished. In a matter of days, tournament officials realized they had a 5,000 ticket problem crammed into a 2,800-seat building. And so, less than a week before the tournament began, the director of the Canadian Open made an announcement that stunned the tennis world. Alexandra Eala's opening match would not be played on the Grandstand. It would be moved to center court. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you will understand exactly how a WTA 500 title in Washington turned into a full-blown phenomenon in Canada, one that is now forcing organizers, broadcasters, and even rival players to recalculate what they thought they knew about the depth of the women's game. This is the story of Alex Eala's takeover. To understand why a tournament director in Toronto felt compelled to tear up his own schedule, you first have to go back 1 week to a tennis center in Washington, D.C., where a 21-year-old from Manila quietly assembled one of the most remarkable title runs the WTA Tour had seen in years. Alexandra Eala arrived at the Mubadala DC Open as a talented but unproven name, someone tennis insiders knew was gifted but the broader public had not yet fully discovered. She left the tournament a champion, and not just any champion. Over the course of 1 week, Eala dismantled a list of opponents that read like a murderer's row of modern women's tennis. She defeated Zheng Qinwen. She defeated Leylah Fernandez. She defeated Alina Svitolina. She defeated Naomi Osaka. And in the final, in a match that had fans and analysts buzzing across social media, she defeated world number 3 Jessica Pegula in 3 sets, closing it out 6-love in the decider, a scoreline that sent a message far louder than any press conference could. This was not a lucky run. This was not a case of a draw opening up and a young player capitalizing on an easy path. Eala beat 5 legitimate contenders in a row, including a former U.S. Open finalist in Fernandez, a former world number 1 contender in Osaka, and a top 3 player in Pegula. Beating that many quality opponents back-to-back at a WTA 500 event is the kind of achievement that vaults a career forward overnight, and that is precisely what happened. With the title, Eala became the first player from the Philippines in the Open era to win a WTA Tour Singles Championship. For a nation with a population north of 100 million and a passionate, tennis-hungry diaspora spread across North America, Europe, and the Middle East, that distinction is not a footnote. It is a cultural milestone. Filipino sports fans have waited generations for a singles star to break through at this level in tennis, a sport that has historically been dominated by a small handful of nations with deep infrastructure and long competitive traditions. Eala's win did not just add a trophy to her cabinet. It planted a flag. The ranking impact was immediate and significant. Eala's run in Washington pushed her to a new career-high position inside the world's top 20, a number that, only a season earlier, would have seemed like a distant long-term goal rather than something achievable in her early 20s. Combined with an earlier title run in Birmingham earlier in the season, Eala entered the North American hardcourt swing with 2 WTA singles titles to her name in a single year and a win-loss record hovering around 35 wins against 18 losses, a mark that places her firmly among the tour's most informed players heading into the final third of the season. But titles and rankings, as significant as they are, only tell part of the story. What happened next had very little to do with spreadsheets and seeding algorithms, and everything to do with raw, uncontainable public demand. Because while the WTA's computer systems were busy recalculating Eala's ranking points, ticket-buying fans in Toronto were about to demonstrate something that no algorithm could have predicted, that Eala's Washington breakthrough had turned her, almost overnight, into one of the most in-demand draws on the entire tour. The seeds of what would become a full-blown scheduling crisis in Toronto were planted the moment Eala lifted that trophy in Washington. Broadcasters noticed the ratings spike during her matches. Social media engagement around her name multiplied several times over in the days following the final. And critically, the enormous, passionate Filipino community across Canada, a diaspora numbering in the hundreds of thousands, heavily concentrated in cities like Toronto, began mobilizing in a way tournament organizers had never quite seen before for a player ranked outside the game's elite tier. Nobody in the National Bank Open's front office could have predicted, even a month earlier, that they would soon be scrambling to find enough seats for a 25th seed. But that is exactly the situation they found themselves in. And in the next chapter, we go inside that scramble, the sold-out tickets, the stunned tournament director, and the decision that would change the entire complexion of the tournament's opening days. Carl Hale has run the National Bank Open in Toronto for decades. He has seen superstars come through his gates, Grand Slam champions, former world number ones, the biggest names the sport has to offer. It takes a great deal to surprise a tournament director with that much experience under his belt. But when he sat down with Tennis Channel in the days leading up to this year's tournament, Hale did not sound like a man describing a routine scheduling decision. He sounded like a man describing something he had genuinely never encountered before. The issue centered on the grandstand, Toronto's second-largest show court. With a capacity of 2,800 seats, the grandstand is typically more than sufficient to host any first-round match on the schedule, including matches involving top 20 players. It is a well-appointed, intimate venue, and under almost any normal circumstance, a 25th seed's opening match would be placed there without a second thought. Alexandra Eala's situation was not a normal circumstance. According to Hale, ticket sales for Eala's first-round match against Alicia Parks did not simply sell well. They sold out entirely in roughly half an hour. Half an hour for a first-round match at a court holding under 3,000 people. And the sales did not stop once the grandstand's allocation was exhausted. Secondary demand, additional ticket packages, and grounds passes tied specifically to Eala's match continued pouring in until organizers estimated the true number of fans hoping to watch her opening match had climbed past 5,000, nearly double what the grandstand could physically hold. Our grandstand court is 2,800 seats, Hale explained. We can't put her on there because she probably sold upwards of 5,000 tickets. It's something we've never seen before this early in the tournament. Faced with a genuine logistical impossibility, thousands of ticket holders with nowhere to sit, organizers made the only decision that made sense. They moved Eala's opening match out of the grandstand entirely and placed it on center court, the tournament's largest stadium, with a capacity of 12,500. To put that number in perspective, organizers effectively upgraded a first-round match by more than 4 times its originally scheduled capacity, in order to accommodate demand for a player who, 12 months earlier, was not yet a household name outside dedicated tennis circles. This is not something that happens to 25th seeds. Center court slots, particularly early in a tournament, are almost always reserved